Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Learn With Me. I'm Deborah Hanson. Today, I'm going to be looking at AP World Unit 1, the Global Tapestry, but specifically, we're going to be looking at 1.1 developments in East Asia, but just the key terms. And I think I've said this in the other video where I went through the CED question and all the essential knowledge, but in the key terms, it's not so much that you need to memorize the key terms, they're just really good words to use on FRQs. So let's get started. On the slide here, you're going to look at all the key terms that I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to talk about how it applies and how you can use them on the exam. Super important to know these words because they will show up in MCQs or FRQs, or you need to use them in your essay writing when you're doing your DBQs and your LEQs, your SAQs. So very, very important to know how to use these in that way on the exam day. So before we get started, thanks to everybody who's already subscribed and liked the channel. Really appreciate it. Numbers are going up. It's great. If you ever have any questions, please put them down below. I answer everyone, and I'm always happy to help. Okay, let's get started with our words. So as we go through the words, I'm going to give you basically a definition and how it applies in AP World, and I'm literally going to keep everything on the screen here so you can take notes in your notebook about each of these words or make flashcards, whatever you need to do to be able to remember what these words mean and be able to apply them on the exam. We're going to start with bureaucracy. The definition is a system of government in which non-elected officials, often selected based on merit or education, carry out the administration, enforcement, and organization of state policies and laws. Now, in AP World, specifically in this particular unit, this term often refers to imperial bureaucracies like those in China. And we talked about the civil service exam when we talked about the sort of essential knowledge you need to know for this unit. So this is where officials were chosen through exams based on Confucian teachings. Bureaucracies helped state governments govern large populations, maintain order, and implement complex policies across the empire. Next one is meritocracy. It is a system in which individuals gain power or status based on ability, talent, and achievement rather than birth, wealth, or social class. So in AP World, meritocracy is often associated with Imperial China, especially during the Song Dynasty, where civil service exams allowed educated men to enter government positions based on their knowledge of Confucian texts, not their family background. The system helped create a more skilled and educated ruling class. The civil service exam, super important for the AP exam. It's a standardized test used in the Imperial China to select government officials based on their knowledge of Confucian texts, ethics, and administrative skills. So it was first developed during the Han Dynasty and expanded during the Tang and Song dynasties. The civil service exam was a key feature of Chinese bureaucracy. So if you ever see any questions about government and China in early Song especially, you think civil service exam. It promoted meritocracy, allowing men, mostly from the scholar gentry class, to earn government positions through education and achievement rather than noble birth. It became a model for bureaucratic recruitment in other parts of East Asia as well. Scholar gentry. This is a wealthy, educated class in Imperial China made up of men who passed the civil service exams and served as government officials, landowners, and cultural elites. The scholar gentry were deeply influenced by Confucian values and played a central role in administration, education, and social leadership during the Tang, Song, and later dynasties. They formed the backbone of the Chinese bureaucracy and were respected for their intellectual achievements and moral authority. Filial piety. This is a core Confucian value that emphasizes respect, obedience, and devotion to one's parents and ancestors. In AP World History, filial piety is important because it shaped social relationships, family structure, and political obedience in Imperial China. It reinforced hierarchical order within the family and the state, supporting the idea that just as children obey their parents, citizens should obey their rulers. The Grand Canal, a massive man-made waterway system in China that connected the Yellow River in the north to the Yangtze River in the south, allowing for efficient transport of goods, people, and grain between northern and southern China. Originally begun during the Sui dynasty and expanded during the Tang and Song dynasties, the Grand Canal helped unify China economically and politically. It played a key role in promoting internal trade, urbanization, and the rise in a market economy, making it a major example of state-sponsored infrastructure in AP World history. Gunpowder, an explosive chemical compound invented in China during the Tang Dynasty, later widely used during the Song Dynasty for military purposes such as bombs, rockets, and early firearms. In AP World History, gunpowder is one of the key Chinese innovations that spread across Eurasia through the Silk Roads and Mongol conquests, leading to major changes in warfare, empire building, and the development of gunpowder empires like the Ottoman, Safavid, and Mughal, which we're going to talk about in Unit 3. Champa rice. This is a fast ripening and drought resistant rice originally from Vietnam, the Champa Kingdom, introduced to China during the Song Dynasty. In AP World History, Champa rice is significant because it increased agricultural productivity. It supported the population growth and it contributed to economic expansion in China. It's an example of diffusion of crops and how new agricultural techniques helped states become more powerful and stable. Proto-industrialization. It's an early phase of economic development in which rural households began producing goods, like textiles or ceramics, for sale in local or international markets, often working from home or in small workshops. So in AP World History, proto-industrialization is especially important in Song Dynasty China, where state-sponsored and private production is increased to meet demand. It laid the groundwork for later industrial economies by encouraging specialization, market activity, and urban growth, even before the rise of factories in the Industrial Revolution. Tributes. This is a payment or gift offered by one state or ruler to another, usually to show respect, submission, or allegiance. In AP World History, tribute is often associated with China's tributary system, where neighboring states like Korea, Vietnam, and Japan sent tribute missions to the Chinese Empire. In return, they received trade privileges, protection, or political recognition. This system helped China assert dominance while maintaining diplomatic and economic relationships with surrounding regions. Foot binding, a Chinese cultural practice that began during the Song Dynasty, where young girls' feet were tightly wrapped to keep them small, creating what they called lotus feet. In AP World History, foot binding is a significant symbol of patriarchal control and social status. It was seen as a sign of beauty and refinement among elite women, but it also limited mobility and reinforced traditional gender roles. It illustrates how cultural practices can reflect and maintain social hierarchies, especially regarding the status of women in society. Woodblock printing. It's an early printing technology developed in China during the Tang Dynasty, where texts or images were carved into wooden blocks, inked, and then pressed onto paper to make copies. In AP World History, woodblock printing is important because it allowed for the mass production of books, which helped spread literacy, education, and religious texts, especially Confucian and Buddhist works. It's a key example of how Chinese innovations contributed to cultural and intellectual growth and later influenced printing in other regions like Korea, Japan, and Europe. Buddhism, a religion and philosophy founded in India in the 6th century BCE by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, that teaches the path to enlightenment through practices like meditation, moral living, and the Four Noble Truths. In AP World History, Buddhism is significant for its spread across Asia, including China, Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia, through trade, missionary activity, and cultural exchange. It influenced art, architecture, education, and philosophy, and adapted to local beliefs through syncretism, blending with traditions like Taoism and Confucianism in East Asia. Taoism, a Chinese philosophical and religious tradition founded during the 6th century BCE, traditionally attributed to Lao Tzu, that emphasizes living in harmony with the Tao, or the Way, the natural force that flows through all things. In AP World History, Taoism is important for its influence on Chinese culture, including medicine, art, science, and political thought. It promoted values like simplicity, balance, and nature, and often blended with Buddhism and Confucianism through syncretism during the Tang and Song dynasties, shaping religious life and cultural identity across East Asia. Confucianism, a philosophical and ethical system based on the teachings of Confucius, which emphasized social harmony, moral conduct, and respect for hierarchy, especially within the family and state. In AP World History, Confucianism is significant for shaping Chinese government, education, and society. It influenced the creation of the civil service exam system, reinforced patriarchal values like filial piety, and spread to other parts of East Asia, including Korea, Japan, and Vietnam, through cultural exchanges and the tribute system. Nuclear family, a family unit consisting of two parents and their children, as opposed to extended families that include grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins living together. In AP World History, the concept of the nuclear family is important when comparing social structures across regions. For example, Vietnamese society during the post classical period preferred nuclear families, which contrasted with the extended family model promoted by Confucianism in China. This difference reflects regional variations in gender roles, inheritance, and family dynamics. So those are the important key terms you need to know for 1.1 developments in East Asia. If you're looking for more information about the content basically related to the CED question, that's on a separate video. Make sure you check that out. Especially if you're studying for a Unit 1 unit test, or if you're looking at studying for the exam right now, super important to know them both together. So how do they fit into the CED question, and what the words are and how we can use them to apply to our FRQs. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, hit that subscribe button. If you want to hear more content from me, you'll get the alerts. That's great. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.